Hey guys. Oh, that was the coffee machine. All right, so we've had problems linking to Instagram, and this has happened to me over the last several days. I don't know if it's an Instagram issue or it's a cell phone issue, but it's a reminder. You know, I've had people say to me, well, why do you even have a website? You should just use social media platforms. And I love social media platforms, clearly. This is why I talk to you every day on them. But it just shows, you know, if one platform goes down, then you don't have a way necessarily to chat the way that you normally do. So anyways, I'm going to do a quick IGTV video. We're going to load this up, and it's going to be basically the same thing, hopefully better. I love talking to you live, though. So here's a couple stories I think you should know today as you kind of head into your Thanksgiving. Some serious stories to catch you up on, but also some stories that are kind of fun / interesting. First of all, you should definitely know the names of the turkeys that are the White House turkeys, one of which will be pardoned, Peas and Carrots. Cute name, right? Peas and Carrots. I don't know which one will get pardoned, but one of them will. And interestingly enough, you know, yesterday we talked about the anniversary of Gettysburg in 1863. That's when President Lincoln gave the Gettysburg Address. Did you know he is the first one also in 1863 to give clemency to a turkey? But really, it wasn't until recent years, the first President Bush, who sort of made it this White House tradition that we watch all the, you know, you could watch on TV. And we used to do it live on the air too. I mean, sort of fun, weird tradition. So that's something you should know. Second thing you should know on the serious note, we talked a little bit about immigration yesterday. I gave you that update about what's happening with the caravans of people that are seeking asylum that are coming to the U.S. border. Many of them, thousands of them, are in Tijuana right now, and thousands more are expected. Remember what happened a couple weeks ago, right before the midterm elections? President Trump came out and said, listen, if you try to come into America illegally, you can no longer apply for asylum. And instead of, you know, going through Congress, he issued basically a presidential order citing national security, didn't give it any sort of public commentary period, and just made it like this is going to be the rule of the land. Well, yesterday there was a hearing, and a district court judge in San Francisco, appointed by President Obama, just tuck that in the back of your head for what it's worth, said it ruled against President Trump and said, you can't do that. The rules of Congress are very clear. If you're seeking asylum, you can seek asylum whether you come to the country legally or illegally. That's the rule of the land. That's what it should be. And so that's the ruling as it stands today. What we're going to watch for is whether or not the Trump administration challenges this again. And so the president has a lot of authority under national security concerns, but he has to prove those concerns. And also just remember, reading this story sort of painted a different picture of asylum for me when I was thinking about the intent of asylum. Basically, Congress made this rule about whether or not you can apply for asylum if you're here legally or not, thinking that people that are applying for asylum are desperate. They're being persecuted and they're desperate. They're not using the asylum system to manipulate it. Now, why do we have that picture sometimes of people maybe try to take advantage of the asylum system? Well, that's because it's hard to get asylum. Only like 1 out of 5 people typically get granted asylum. So that's why we also have that image of saying, well, there's a lot of people that apply asylum that really don't qualify. So there's the rub. So that's something you should know as an update to this story as you go into Thanksgiving. My husband's here cooking breakfast, thank goodness, because no one would eat it in this household if he didn't cook. But this story I thought was particularly interesting for all of us who have cell phones and for husbands and wives in particular to just chat about, especially the wives. So here's a question. Do our cell phones cause cancer? You have seen the reports, right? You wonder. Don't you wonder? I always wonder, like when you're on a long phone call, like, oh, is this okay? Like, what's going on? So basically, a major group, part of the National Institute for Health, did the most sweeping, comprehensive study to date. They released the final results just a few weeks ago. Sort of let the results settle because they're a little bit controversial. And what they did is they took rats and mice and pumped them full of radio frequency radiation, which is what our cell phones use. And maybe what's not working today for my cell phone connection. So when the mice and the rats were born to the age of 2, for 9 hours a day, they pumped them full of radiation. Some of the radiation was at the level of our cell phones, the highest level that should be allowed by our cell phones. But sometimes the radiation was 4 times that amount. So what happened to the mice? What happens to the rats? Some of them did develop cancer, but only a specific group, the male rats. The female rats and mice didn't seem to have that problem. Weird. Scientists say that's sort of typical in animal studies across the board, that different genders are affected differently. But of course I had to ask my husband about this. What do you think is the scientific reason? Is it just because we're the stronger sex? Is that probably the reason that we're just immune to even 4 times the amount of legal radiation?
I think it's just because females are cold-blooded.
What would that have to do with anything?
And, you know, they just can't be killed by radiation.
The warm-hearted males
men were
weak,
more
is
susceptible.
what you're saying.
Obviously.
No. So what's interesting about this is that when the study first came out, the preliminary results, thank you, Leif, for that scientific expertise on this matter. The scientists said, well, there's some sort of an effect here that we need to research. As the results were looked at different panels, it became stronger. And the scientists then said, well, there's clear evidence that this radiation can cause cancer. But the FDA said, no, there's not clear evidence. Like, this doesn't apply to all mice and rats. You're pumping their entire bodies full of radiation, not just at certain points of their body. And don't make this more than it is, essentially. So there's mixed opinions about what really we found out. Also, the technology they researched, the radio frequency radiation, is for 2G and 3D technology cell phones. A lot of our cell phones are going to be 4G, 5G in the next few years, and the researchers say this doesn't apply. So there you go. I did read a really interesting, it was an editorial, but it was a column in the Hill newspaper of someone who has a great expertise, a great background in toxicology and radiation. And he said basically the bottom line is that we don't really know. So that's comforting. But that we really don't know exactly the cause of this radiation on the human body, especially in the specific areas that we might be holding the phone. The FDA director that does oversee radiation and devices, there's a department for that. Even though he came out with a strong disagreement of the final results showing that clear evidence, he said when he's on a long phone call, he's going to use earbuds. So maybe that's what we should all do. You use earbuds. I mean, I feel like you need to do that. Basically, what I'm also trying to tell you is I'm risking my life daily on a daily basis to bring you these Instagram lives because I'm such a selfish person. According to there's a study a couple months ago that said I think we check our cell phones every 12 minutes, 80 times a day, something crazy. I think I do that. I hate to tell you. Okay, final story you should know about David Bridal's filed for bankruptcy. Story that's been around for 60 years. The bigger picture behind why they filed for bankruptcy, besides they had a lot of debt and they need to restructure, is that there are fewer people getting married, that our marriage rates have fallen. But those of us who are getting married tend to buy more expensive dresses. So just like everything, if you're selling an item that's lower price, and David Bridal sells dresses that are, $2,000 and cheaper. I read in one article, I think it was $600 is the average dress that they sell, something like that. You have to sell a lot of those dresses to make sure that you're coming out okay in the end. So they haven't been able to do that, and in the research, some of it indicates that it's because we're just not getting married at such high rates as we used to. But don't lose hope. A couple weeks ago, we did a story about millennials potentially saving marriage because they are waiting longer to get married, and their divorce rates are not as high. So don't give up. That's all I'm saying. And if you have a dress at David Bridal's, you're going to be fine. They're not taking them away. You can still shop there, just so you know. Okay. I'm going to try to work on this Instagram thing. In the meantime, I hope you enjoyed this. Let me know over the next few days, what do you guys think about lives during Thanksgiving? I think you might be busy. I don't really want to bother you, be like that annoying girl that always pops up. That's not what we want. We want to be smarter. So I'll let you know what's going to happen over the next few days. In the meantime, enjoy your Tuesday before Thanksgiving, and thanks for rolling with us here at SmartHER News. All right, guys? Cheers to a little coffee this morning. And thank you to Leif, our special contributor. Have a great day.